The American Revolution, a beacon of liberty and self-governance. In the later half of the 18th century, a storm was brewing across the Atlantic. The 13 American colonies, once loyal subjects of the British Crown, grew increasingly restless under the yoke of imperial rule. The colonists, a diverse group of farmers, merchants, and artisans, found themselves increasingly at odds with their British overlords. Their grievances were manifold. Enlightenment ideals. Colonists were deeply influenced by the Enlightenment's emphasis on natural rights, individual liberty, and limited government. These ideas fueled their desire for self-determination and a government that truly represented their interests. Economic grievances. British policies like the Sugar Act, Stamp Act, and the Tea Act, which imposed taxes on the colonies without their consent, stoked resentment and fueled calls for economic independence. Taxation without representation. The rallying cry of the American Revolution encapsulated the colonists' frustration with being taxed by a government in which they had no say. This denial of political representation was a direct violation of their perceived rights as British subjects. Desire for self-governance. The colonists yearned for a government that would be responsive to their needs and aspirations, a government that would embody their values and protect their liberties. Fueled by these grievances, the American colonies embarked on a path of resistance, culminating in the American Revolution. The founding fathers, many of whom were well-versed in Enlightenment philosophy and deeply inspired by John Locke's writings, drew upon liberal principles to justify their cause. They argued that the British government had violated their natural rights, overstepped its authority, and failed to uphold the end of the social contract. As such, they declared their right to break free from British rule and establish a new nation based on the principles of liberty, equality, and self-governance. The Declaration of Independence, a testament to liberal ideals. The Declaration of Independence, penned by Thomas Jefferson, stands as a powerful testament to the influence of liberal thought. It proclaims that all men are created equal, endowed with unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These principles, deeply rooted in liberalism, became the bedrock of the new nation, enshrined in the United States Constitution and its Bills of Rights. The French Revolution, a tumultuous quest for liberty, equality, fraternity. Just a few years after the American Revolution, another wave of revolutionary fervor swept across Europe, this time centered in France. The French Revolution, a complex and often contradictory event, was driven by a confluence of factors: economic inequality. The vast majority of the French population lived in poverty and faced harsh economic conditions, while a small elite enjoyed immense wealth and privilege. This stark contrast fueled resentment and called for social justice. Social unrest. The rigid social hierarchy of ancient regime, with its three states of clergy, nobility, and commoners, created widespread discontent and a desire for greater equality. Political discontent. The absolute monarchy of Louis XVI was seen as out of touch and unresponsive to the needs of the people. The French Enlightenment, with its emphasis on reason and individual rights, had fueled a growing appetite for political reform. These factors, combined with a series of economic crises and food shortages, ignited the revolution. The revolutionaries, inspired by Enlightenment thinkers like Rousseau and Montesquieu, sought to overthrow the monarchy and establish a republic based on the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, a landmark document. The French Revolution was a tumultuous period marked by both the moments of idealism and episodes of violence and terror. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, adopted in 1789, enshrined many liberal principles, including the right to liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppression. However, the revolution's radical turn under the Jacobins and ensuing reign of terror led to the widespread violence and the suppression of individual liberties. The impact of the American and French revolutions on liberalism. The American and French revolutions were not just isolated events, they were part of a broader historical trend towards greater individual liberty, democratic governance, and social equality. These revolutions demonstrated the power of ideas to shape the world and the potential of ordinary people to rise up against injustice. Legacy of the revolutions. The principles of individual liberty, equality, and limited government remain cornerstones of modern democracy. The revolutions serve as a reminder of the power of ideas to transform society. The ongoing struggle to balance individual freedom with social responsibility continues to be a central challenge for liberalism.